from Fenway Park in Boston, it's ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Tonight, Kirby Puckett and the world champion Minnesota Twins take on Wade Boggs and the Boston Red Sox. For Twins manager Tom Kelly, the sweet taste of a world championship has faded quickly. Not long after scoring the winning run in Game 7, Dan Gladden and Series MVP Jack Morris departed the Twin Cities. And the '92 staff started the year with a struggling Scott Erickson. In May, talk of repeating was faint. But by the end of June, the Twins were back on top. Rick Aguilera is the ace closer on an excellent pitching staff, and with outstanding defense and the major's best hitting, the Twins are looking like champions again. As Kirby Puckett leads the way with an MVP-type season, Minnesota has managed to hold back all threats from the proud Oakland Athletics. Tonight, they'll deal with Fenway's famed wall and the troubled Boston Red Sox, who just have not been hitting. Although, the last 2 weeks, the former Twin star, Tom Brunansky, has been hot. Despite being in 5th place, Boston owns the second-best home record in the league. Tonight, they meet the Twins. 80 years ago, they began playing baseball in Boston's back way in the Fens. Fenway Park. It opened in 1912, and that's where we are tonight. You're looking live at Fenway as ESPN Sunday Night Baseball presents the world champion Twins and the Boston Red Sox. In the American League West, Oakland defeated Toronto again today. Minnesota will need a win here to remain 3 games up on the Athletics. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller along with Joe Morgan. We're in Fenway Park, which is always exciting. The Red Sox themselves, they haven't been so exciting lately. But if they sent Major League players to the Olympics to play in the Olympic Games, these Minnesota Twins, they could be the dream team. Just to coin a phrase, the Twins, the world champions of baseball, and the best record in the majors again right now.
Well, they are a completely different ball club than last year, in my opinion, simply because of the confidence factor. Last year, you would have never heard the Minnesota Twins saying that they did not get respect that they deserve. This year, they're even almost cocky. They're saying they're the best team in baseball, and they're not getting the respect that they're due. And they're not. But defensively, they're playing very, very well, and I think that's the key to their ball club since June. They've made all the defensive plays. This is a play made yesterday by Gagne. This saves a run. They do this day in and day out. They play fundamentally sound baseball, make all the plays. They have good pitching and great hitting.
Indeed, great hitting. The Minnesota Twins lead all of Major League Baseball in runs scored and batting average.
Well, they do the things that are necessary to get the job done. You get a man at second base, they move him over. You get a man at second base with 2 outs, they drive him in. They're probably hitting better than any other team with runners in scoring position when it really counts.
All right, so should Oakland just concede right now?
Not yet.
All right, it's getting a little bit more exciting now as we head into the stretch run. Now, the Boston Red Sox, not so exciting here. They have not hit. The Red Sox haven't done anything that you associate with Red Sox baseball.
Well, the real problem, John, is they're trying to win without speed, without power, and an average defense. The only plus for the Boston Red Sox is their pitching staff, and that's just the opposite of Boston teams in the past.
All right, now, new manager Butch Hobson has juggled the batting order tonight. Wade Boggs is back in the leadoff spot, so we'll see how they do there. The starting pitchers here at Fenway tonight. For the Red Sox, the left-hander Joe Hesketh will go, and for the Twins, Kevin Tapani, who's been red hot.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. By Wrangler, the most comfortable jeans known to man. And by Farmers Insurance. We insure millions of homes, autos, and families across America.
There's the live view of Fenway Park in Boston's Back Bay from the Prudential Building tonight as the Red Sox and Twins are about to have at it. Now the Minnesota batting order. Rookie of the Year, Chuck Knobloch, second base. Shane Mack, left field. Kirby Puckett, center field. Chili Davis, big hit yesterday, the designated hitter batting cleanup. Pedro Munoz, very fine young right fielder. Brian Harper, 300 hitting catcher. Kent Herbeck is at first base, batting seventh. Scott Leyes is at third base. And at shortstop is Greg Gagne, batting ninth. And on the mound for the Boston Red Sox, charged with shutting down the hot-hitting Twins, there is Joe Hesketh.
And Hesketh spent a lot of his career with the Montreal Expos, and now he's in the American League. He really has to throw strikes, meaning he has to get out in front. He has to throw a lot of strikes, stay in front of the hitters in order to control the ball game. If he gets behind, you will find him getting knocked around because he doesn't have a good enough fastball that he can get the hitters out when he's behind. And defensively for the Boston Red Sox, behind Hesketh will be Brunansky in right field. Herm Winningham over from the National League is in center. Billy Hatcher, another ex-National Leaguer, in left field. Wade Boggs is at third. Rivera is the shortstop. Jody Reed is the second baseman. Mo Vaughn back in the lineup at first. Tony Pena will do the catching, and Joe Hesketh on the mound.
Wait a minute. Where's Williams? Yastrzemski.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's Greenwell?
Rice,
Burks.
those kind of guys.
Yeah, what happened? Where's Lynn? Here's the weather. Beautiful night for a ball game out here. 73 degrees, 69% the humidity. There is a chance of showers and thunderstorms. And a little bit of wind blowing out to left center field. A hitter's wind, or so we thought. A scientist at MIT says otherwise these days. The Charles Wirt River, and you see the Mass Ave Bridge coming there across the Mass Turnpike. And of course, there it is, lit like a jewel in the midsummer Fenway Park, which opened for business April the 20th, 1912, 80 years ago. And they had a lot more success that year than they're having so far this year. This series began Friday night in a doubleheader. Scott Erickson with a one-hit shutout, beating Roger Clemens 5-0. And Erickson was sensational. The second game, the Red Sox came from behind with some offense in the late innings to win 5-4. Irvin over Carl Willis, and Brunansky had a big day against his former team. Then yesterday, the Twins came from behind with 3 runs in the 7th when they were being no-hit by Danny Darwin. Banks won it. Aguilera with his 29th save. Only Eckersley has more saves in Major League Baseball than Aguilera of the Twins. So here we go. Beautiful night for baseball at Fenway Park. And as usually the case in the summertime, Fenway is filled up, even though the fans here are restless. They're not pleased with the state of the Red Sox, but they're here. Chuck Knobloch, batting right-handed, inserted recently into the leadoff spot, and takes his strike, says Chuck Merriweather. 0-1. 8:09 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and we are underway. You see, Knobloch has done well out of that leadoff spot.
Shane Mack was leading off, and they moved him down in the order after he slumped a little bit, and they put Knobloch at the top of the order. In fact, Kelly had said that he wanted Knobloch to be there all the time, except he didn't want to put that much pressure on him, you know, last year at the beginning. There's Tom Kelly, and we saw Butch Hobson before.
And based on the numbers, certainly Knobloch makes more sense as a leadoff man. He gets a lot of walks. He steals bases. Very handy with the bat. And Shane Mack, by comparison, although he steals bases, a lot more power.
Well, but the only difference is, the only thing I would question is, I would think Knobloch actually has better bat control, meaning he can pull the ball, hit the ball behind the runner. Mack is basically, you know, just a straightaway hitter. But I agree with you. Knobloch runs better as far as stealing bases, and he's more consistent as far as on-base percentage.
He was the Rookie of the Year last year, and it's ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
If you take a look at the Twins, though, John, they have a lot of interchangeable parts, meaning, you know, Knobloch can hit first or second or possibly even third. We know Kirby Puckett can hit any place. Shane Mack, you know, Chili Davis can hit anywhere in the lineup. So I think they have a pretty versatile lineup, you know, for Kelly to work with.
The confident and cocky Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, I like that.
Out of play off to the right. I think the way you described the Twins is certainly accurate. And it was also, as you see, Kirby Puckett. He'll be up third in the inning. Kind of reflects Kirby's attitude. I mean,
right.
Kirby's always up, always confident. Nothing gets him down. The Twins were so loose before batting practice tonight.
Yeah.
Out in the field, they were all talking about their fantasy football picks. That's what was on their minds before the game. 2-2 pitch. That is fair. And will head into the left field corner. Chasing after it is Billy Hatcher. Karam came off the wall. Knobloch has a stand-up double. His 14th double of the year.
Knobloch had gone 0 for 6. He was 3 for 4 the first game of the series, and then he had been 0 for 6 the last 2 ball games. So he needed to get back on track. Again, Hesketh doesn't throw hard enough to get inside on the right-hander. He tried to throw a fastball up and in. Knobloch turned on it even though he had 2 strikes. When you can't get in on a right-hander with 2 strikes, you're really going to have a problem. You're better off staying away completely.
So that'll bring up Shane Mack, and you see his numbers. Very impressive. .303 batting average, 11 homers, 52 runs batted in, 20 doubles, 4 triples, and what's not reflected there is the fact that he's become a Gold Glove caliber left fielder. He is really outstanding in the field.
This is where the Twins have excelled at moving runners along and getting them home.
Ball 1. Chuck Merriweather is the home plate umpire. Ed Hickox at first. Ted Hendry at second. Jim Evans, the crew chief, umpiring at third base. Ron Gardenhire, the third base coach for the Twins, flashing some signs to Mack. So ideally hitting that number 2 spot. Mack's going to try to hit behind the runner and move him over.
Exactly.
There's ball 2, although I think what you said about Knobloch,
right.
If Knobloch was up there, we know he'd get it over to the right side.
It's a more natural situation for Knobloch because he, in my opinion, handles the bat a little better than Shane Mack. But as you mentioned, Mack has more power, so you hit him second, he will hit a lot of times with a runner on base where his power will come into play a little bit better.
Kirby Puckett is on deck. There's a strike. Now, my take on this, Joe, is that if Mack's leading off, he gets on, and Knobloch moves him over for Kirby Puckett.
Correct.
Now this spot, this is what they're looking. Knobloch gets on, and Mack drives him in.
Oh, I don't think so with no one out. With one out, I agree with you, but with no one out, he needs to take a shot to right field.
And Hesketh trying to prevent that, keeping the ball in. 3-1, though.
You know, that's a fallacy of the game, though, John, when you say when they want to keep a guy from hitting to right field and they pitch him in, the easiest ball to hit the other way is the inside pitch. All you do is inside out, and it's easier to do that than it is to reach out and hit the ball the other way.
3-1 to Shane Mack. He's becoming a real star. I mean, he's a guy who can hit for some power. He's an outstanding outfielder. He can steal a base. He hits for average.
You know, John, he's really an underrated star already because when you're on a team with the Kirby Pucketts, the Chili Davis, the Herbecks of the world, you are not going to get a lot of publicity.
Well, he got the runner over, and he may have gotten him in. Yes, sir. Here comes Knobloch to score as Winningham throws back, and Minnesota leads 1-0. Shane Mack with his 53rd RBI of the season.
And again, this is what the Twins have been doing all year. Well, since the last few weeks anyway. They have been driving runners in, moving them along. You know, you do not always have to hit the ball to the right side to get the guy over. You have to hit behind the runner. And this ball is behind Knobloch at second base. He is able to go to third, even if the shortstop Rivera, see, this ball is behind him. If Rivera even catches it, he still would not be able to prevent Knobloch from going to third. Thus, it goes through for a single. Knobloch scores easily.
Now, here comes the man that everybody around baseball has been talking about this year. Kirby Puckett has always been an outstanding player, but this year he has been MVP caliber. He leads the league in hitting. He is third in the league in RBIs. Still an outstanding center fielder, Gold Glove caliber himself. He's won a few out there.
And you better hurry up and get it out because he's a first ball hitter.
Yeah. So look hard. Don't look away because we may only see him up here for a short time. He bunts it. Hesketh with a barehanded pickup. Safe at first.
Well, he's a first ball hitter, so he makes things happen on the first pitch. I mean, he is just a fine player. That's a smart play more than anything else there. Who expected Kirby Puckett to bunt in Boston with the Fenway wall so close, a left-hander on the mound, and the Twins leading 1-0? Just a perfect bunt. Hesketh actually makes a very good play. No Boggs is nowhere in sight, and the speed of Puckett beats it out easily. Boggs was back, so there was no way for him to make the play.
Well, and such a great execution there by Kirby. And now they're set up for a big inning here at Fenway Park. Chili Davis, then Munoz, then Harper. And look at Chili, not the home run numbers, but he's hitting .289, and the RBIs have been there the last 60 games or so. High in the air to right. The right center, Brunansky. Tagging at second is Mack. Puckett is tagging at first. Mack will easily make it to third as Rivera cuts off the throw, and Kirby stays at first.
Again, you know, Chili Davis makes an out, but there are good outs and there are bad outs. That was a good out because he moved Mack up one base. Now Mack is at third with less than 2 outs, so he can score on a ground ball. So I'm sure Chili Davis didn't have that in mind, but if you're going to make out, it should be productive. You see them patting him on the back, meaning you did a good job. You got the runner over.
Saw Chili Davis with a quote the other day saying he doesn't know where Kirby Puckett's going to play next year, but wherever it is, that's where he wants to be. He doesn't ever want to be on a team without Kirby Puckett again. By the way, Kirby Puckett has now had 8 bunt hits this year, so every once in a while he'll drop it down. Here is Munoz. Puckett is back at first. You got speed in the base paths. Puckett has 11 steals at first. Mack 15 over at third. And here's another guy we don't hear much about, but Munoz, one of the fine young players around. 10 homers, 46 batted in, .278 average. Slider misses from Hesketh. Ball 1.
He's the player that Kirby Puckett tells me is going to be a big star. He said this kid is going to be a star for a long period of time. He's got power. He can play defense. He can run. He can do everything. And he thinks he's going to be a big star.
Pedro Munoz from Puerto Rico. And the Puckett is back again. 1 out, 1 in, 2 men on.
And you see the defense is set up for the double play. They're going to try to get out of this inning with a ground ball. Shortstop second towards the bag.
One ball and 1 strike. Now Munoz ended up being part of a very shrewd trade by Andy McPhail, because they picked him up from the Toronto Blue Jays in a deal that sent John Candelaria away. And of course Candelaria been with a couple of teams since then, but now Munoz here is a regular on a very good ball club and contributing.
You know, it's interesting because it tells me the Blue Jays have had an awful lot of talent, you know, in the outfield and around. You know, they had the Mosbys of the world. They've had a lot of talent there. And
talent machine they got up there. This could be 2 now. Reed the second one. Rivera back to first. 2 double play. And Hesketh gets out of it with just the 1-run scoring. Twins were thinking a little bit more than that. We'll see Boggs when we get back. There's the panoramic view of Fenway Park. A little bit of baseball heaven here in New England. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. The Red Sox are coming up now. Butch Hobson's lineup. Wade Boggs back in the leadoff spot. That's a change. Billy Hatcher, the former Red, in left field. Phil Plantier, the designated hitter, batting third. Tom Brunansky, the former Twin, is in right field. Mo Vaughn at first base, 3 hits yesterday. Jody Reed at second base, batting 6th. Herm Winningham, another former Red, is in center field. Tony Pena, the catcher, batting 8th. And the shortstop is Luis Rivera, batting 9th. And on the mound for the world champions, there is Kevin Tapani. He was off to a slow start this year, but he had a great second half last year. And lately, he's given notice that that's what he intends to do again this season.
Well, you can tell he's off to a slow start, more hits than innings pitched. But last year, by the end of the season, everyone felt that Kevin Tapani was the best pitcher on the Minnesota Twins staff. And, of course, that included Erickson last year and Jack Morris, who was there. Defensively, Pedro Munoz in right, Kirby Puckett in center, Shane Mack in left, Scott Leas is the third baseman, Greg Gagne in short, Chuck Knobloch at second, Kent Herbeck, Brian Harper behind the plate, and Kevin Tapani on the mound.
And Wade Boggs at the plate. Trying to get the Red Sox started here.
Take a look at Boggs. He has glasses on, and this is new. He started wearing them within the last week, and get a look at the glasses. Not the Oakley blade kind that wrap all around your eyes. He has rims on his.
And it's caught by Gagne. Right where Boggs is going to be fitted for contact lenses today.
He told me he's going to wear contacts because what happens is in the hot evenings when he sweats, the glasses fog up, so he's going to go to contacts. You know, I wore glasses. I tried to, John, myself, but they caused me a problem because the rims, I could see them, you know, out of the side of my, on the side of my face, and it disturbed my concentration. So I think contacts would be a good idea for Wade.
Billy Hatcher, the hitter, longtime National Leaguer. He was of course, and it's an understatement to say he was a key man for the Reds in their World Series victory over Oakland 2 years ago, and one of the great series that anybody's ever had. Couldn't get him out there for the longest time. He fouls one away. Well, 1-2.
John, they couldn't get him out, so they finally hit him. They hit him too late, though.
Yeah, they couldn't get him out, so they knocked him out.
Yeah. And there you see the trade that he came over for Tom Bolton. Bolton won his ball game yesterday,
yeah.
So.
All right, back to Tapani. And that is out number 2. Now, Mike Greenwell, ordinarily, you might be seeing right here, hitting third. He's out. Greenwell, a perennial 300 hitter for the Red Sox. But he had an elbow tendon transplant. And they think he might not be back at 100% efficiency until the middle of next year. Very serious surgery for Mike Greenwell. And Ellis Burks, the regular center fielder, he's got a broken bone in his back. He's been out a month. He's much improved. Is hoping to start hitting this week, maybe return in early August. But those are 2 names that you expect when you see the Red Sox, and productive bats in that order. They've not been here. Here's Plantier, and that's a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now, here's one of the guys who's been a major disappointment. He's the future. Plantier, Mo Vaughn, and they have not done much of anything.
John, I think the Red Sox have about a 2 or 3 week window here of where they're going to take a look at this team and say, can we win? Can we make a run at it? Can we change our fate? If not, you're going to see a lot of young players brought up by the Red Sox and some trades or things happening.
And strike 3 on the outside. And Tapani made it look easy, and Plantier is hearing a few boos at Fenway. 1-0 Twins after 1. This is the last night of the Subway Grand Slam Challenge. After any home run in tonight's game, we'll call a fan. If they know who hit the homer, they win $1,000. For each run scored on the homer, a Grand Slam wins $50,000. We'll call till we get a winner, and everyone called wins a $5 Subway gift certificate. If there's no Grand Slam hit, a drawing will be made to determine the winner of the $50,000. To enter, call 1-900-737-ESPN. The call costs 95 cents. Under 18 needs parents' permission. So grab yourself a Subway sandwich and enjoy the ball game. They've given away $22,000 so far.
You mean tonight's the last night, so that means we won't get Subways delivered after tonight?
Life is hard.
Or do we have a 1-year contract here?
There's a strike to Brian Harper. 1 ball, 1 strike.
You're going to have to start spending your meal money now.
See, this is the Subway thing. The best thing ever happened to you. Brian Harper, right-handed hitter, as you see. And the off-speed delivery from Hesketh. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now, Harper, one of those Twins-type hitters, he's hitting .302. 4 homers, but 46 RBIs.
You know, what's funny is Harper is not a power hitter anymore, but a very fine hitter. I think he's an excellent right-handed hitter. But he used to hit 30 home runs in the minor leagues.
2-2.
But now he's, like you say, he's more of a Twins-type hitter, just a line drive hitter, uses the entire field. I think that's the key to their success. They use the entire field. Most of their hitters do. That comes from Terry Crowley, who is the hitting instructor.
The Crow, the king of swing. Into left field, way back there. This one is off the wall, about halfway up. Hatcher plays the carom. Not too bad for a novice.
Yeah.
They don't have walls like that in the National League.
No. That in the National League, he goes back and catches that one.
Yeah.
That's just a fly ball to left. But Harper's a good hitter, and what we see here is Hesketh will try to get inside again. Pitches up and in. Harper turns on it, and it hits off the wall. But again, a nice play actually by Hatcher to hold him to a double, but I don't think Harper wanted to run that far anyway.
A lot of guys who Haven't played here much. You see a carom like that go right past him and back toward the infield. But the Hampshires had a little time to learn about the many things that can happen when a ball goes back toward that wall. Here's Herbeck. And he's the only left-handed hitter in the order. He's slumping, and he squares around to bunt, fouls it off.
And, you know, I find that interesting, John, because in yesterday's ball game, Boston had runners at first and second, no one out in the bottom of the ninth inning against Aguilera with Brunansky hitting, and they did not bunt, and they end up not scoring a run. This is one of the differences between the managing styles of Tom Kelly and Butch Hobson's. I agree that if you don't think he can pull the ball in this situation, go ahead and bunt.
He's had 2 sacrifice bunts this year, so it's not the first time. Look out, and he won't have to bunt now. Down to third base goes Brian Harper. The Red Sox give Harper third base. So Kelly maybe taking the bunt off right there.
Yeah, I'm sure he took it off now. This is a wild pitch. Herbeck squares around to bunt, and he has to duck. And the ball gets away from Pena right over Herbeck's head and back to the screen.
There's Butch Hobson, the hard-nosed former third baseman of the Red Sox when they used to hit home runs up and down the lineup. He was a 9th place hitter who hit 30 homers here one year. And the breaking ball in for a strike. Herbeck, as you saw a little while ago, has 5 hits in 10 at-bats against Hesketh. But right now, Herbie's not hitting much against any type pitching.
This is interesting. They're going to play the infield back. They're already trailing 1-0, and the Red Sox are having a lot of problems scoring runs.
And it is 2-2 now to Herbeck.
So the question is, when you are not scoring runs, can you afford to get behind early and give up too many runs early, because the Twins are a good hitting ball club.
Red Sox have bullpen activity already. 2-2 to Herbeck. Right over third, nobody out. Chase the bad one, the slider. And the slump continues for the big Twin slugger.
This is why I think with 2 strikes on Herbeck, you play the infield in. He's not going to get a good swing at you, but if he hits a weak ground ball someplace, it would score a run. So why give it to him? If you got a big, strong right-handed hitter up there, yeah, you go ahead and play the infield back to keep him from having a big inning. But when you're ahead and you have a left-hander, it can be tough on left-handed hitters. I say you don't give them anything.
Here's Scott Leyes, who's been playing most of the third base in the absence of Pagliarulo this year. Outside, the infield is in now at third base and first base, but back at shortstop and second. Scott Leyes, who hit the game-winning home run in Game 2 of the World Series last year against Tom Glavine, no less.
The Red Sox have the infield in at first and third.
Right through the middle, base hit. Coming in to score is Brian Harper, and the Twins have that second run. 2-0 Minnesota with 1 out in the second.
Well, the Twins have a lot of players who put the ball in play, and again, that's one of the theories of Terry Crowley. Just a ground ball right back through the wicket. Hesketh could not get down in time. Hesketh, I think, has to make sure when he has a runner at third like that, he has to make sure he keeps the ball down, which he did, but also has to field his position a little better.
So that Boston bullpen with some activity early on, and Hesketh has now given up 5 hits in this game, and we're only in the second inning. There is Paul Quantrill, young right-hander. Greg Gagne, the 9th place hitter, hitting .257, 5 homers, 28 RBIs. He also had his share of World Series heroics. There's that breaking ball. It is 0-1. You know, Joe Hesketh, very likable fellow, very good humored guy, and big baseball fan. When he broke into the big leagues with Montreal, they brought him in relief. The manager went out and said, hey, the runner at first is a base stealer. Don't let him get a big jump. So he went into his stretch. This is his major league debut. He's never even thrown a pitch. Went into his stretch, kicked and threw to first, and they called a balk. So Joe Hesketh feels at least he probably has the record for most balks before having ever thrown a pitch in the major leagues. One strike to count to Greg Gagne. Leyes, the runner at first, has 5 stolen bases. Foul ball, 0-2 the count. The Twins don't have a whole lot of team speed, but they have 2 or 3 guys who run fairly well. We are in Boston, home of the Red Sox, and there's the skyline of downtown Boston. Looking out from Fenway Park there, the huge building, the tallest in all of New England, the John Hancock building down in Copley Square. Prudential Center. It's Boylston Street looking down and on down toward the Boston Common and out toward the harbor.
Sound like you've lived here before.
I spent some time here in Boston. Slider swung on and foul tipped. It's held by Pena, and Gagne has struck out. 2 men gone.
Well, Hesketh has to stay out of the middle of the plate, and he does so here. A good slider down and in, and Gagne right over the top of it. Left-hander has 2 ways to pitch, either in to the right-hander or use his fastball tailing away.
Here is Chuck Knobloch. He doubled his first time, starting the rally in the first inning. Scored the first run of the game. Runner at first, 2 down. Minnesota leading 2-0. The Red Sox will be hosting the Texas Rangers here beginning tomorrow. Texas in 3rd place over in the West, and the Rangers, at least tonight, are rooting for the Red Sox. They would come in here only 7 back if Boston can help them out. The Rangers won at Baltimore earlier today, back up Nolan Ryan. And Ryan, all of a sudden, Joe, looks like Nolan Ryan again. He's won 5 in a row.
Well, he wasn't pitching as poorly as his record might have indicated earlier. He wasn't pitching great, but he had a chance to win a couple of games, and they couldn't hold the lead.
Minnesota will be going home to the Metrodome for a showdown with the 2nd place Athletics beginning tomorrow night. Right through the legs again. Nice play. Got him at second base. Jody Reed saved a base hit. Rivera got the put out. Leyes couldn't get there in time. Wow. Brunansky, Vaughn, and Reed coming up. 2-0 Twins. Twins 2, Red Sox 0. We go to the last of the 2nd at Fenway Park. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan.
This is a great play by Jody Reed. The toughest part is not the catch, but the throw. You're falling down and have to get something on the ball and accurately. Perfect play. That's just a great play. You see the hustle by Leyes trying to beat it out. But here's the toughest part. I know you say the dive was great, but the throw was even tougher.
Here is Tom Brunansky. Fouls one away. You know, it's funny, Brunansky wasn't actually with the Twins that many years, but because he kind of grew up with the likes of Herbeck and Puckett and that young ball club that emerged to a World Series champion in 1987, he was there for that. I still kind of think of him with the Twins, with that group.
Yeah, you do. The interesting thing is that one of the reasons Boston acquired him is because he hit so well here at Fenway Park. He came over here. He hasn't hit well, but I think some people forgot he's not facing the same pitching staff.
Yeah, he get to face the Red Sox.
Yeah,
now.
right.
Although this year the Red Sox have been real tough. They pitched awfully well. It's a high foul out of play. Brunansky hitting .270, 7 homers, and a team leading 42 RBIs, which doesn't mean that he's having a great year. It just means that nobody's driving in any runs.
It just means he's leading the team.
Yeah. And that's not saying much for him.
Right.
2-2 the count. Strike 3 call. Tapani on the inside corner with his 2nd straight strikeout. Let's go now to the studio.
John and Joe, Miller Genuine Draft Light brings you this day in baseball. 64 years ago in 1928, Bob Musil hit for the cycle for the 3rd time in his career, and we had the biggest 12th inning in history, 11 runs. It ends up a blowout.
Here's Mo Vaughn, and he takes a ball outside. Gary Miller back in the studio. Looks like we've got one ball game still going in the American League. The Mariners hosting the Yankees. I'm sure Gary will keep us posted on that one. 1 ball, 1 strike to Mo Vaughn. Now, We mentioned Phil Plantier and how disappointing he has been. And here's the other guy. The second straight year he's been disappointed. Now, they thought these two guys were just the latest in a long, traditional line of Red Sox sluggers out of that farm system. I mean, so many have been developed by the Red Sox. And these are both big guys, very powerful, but they just have not done it this year.
Yeah, well, and you looked at Vaughn's 208 average. That's because he's had 2 good days in a row. Yeah, he got 3 hits and then 2 hits, so 5 hits. Right, so he's on a hot streak. But, you know, I've watched him for 3 days now. I've been here in Boston for 3 days, and I just see that he has a lot of movement in his bat.
High and deep into right center field, all the way back to the bullpen. It's out of here. Into the bleachers and over the bullpen. What a shot.
That's what the Boston Red Sox expected from both he and Plantier this season, but neither one of them have had any power, so to speak, of. But that just tells you the type of power he has. You see the target down and in. It's a fastball, but it's right out over the middle of the plate. And this is a beautiful finish. Watch this finish. That is, he knows that one's gone, John.
I'll say it was gone. It was back into the bleachers, over the bullpen. And there's Jody Reed taking a ball.
I was about to say, I watched him for 3 days, and he is starting to, you know, show a little more confidence in the batter's box, even though he's been moving around in the lineup in pinch hitting. He's just
down the left field line. That's a base hit. Hustling over to Shane Mack. Reed with a big turn at first, but he'll go back. Mack hits not blocked with a throw. Mo Vaughn with that home run into the bleachers. And you know, when Ted Williams first got here, 1939, you had to hit it into the bleachers in right field to get a home run. There were no bullpen areas out there at that time. But after Williams got here, as you see, the Red Sox have not been hitting many home runs lately. After Williams had his rookie season here, they built those bullpens, not because they needed them there, but because they wanted Ted to hit a few more homers. Yeah, they called it Williamsburg, those bullpens, when they first installed them for the 1940 season.
That's only the 46th home run of the season for the Red Sox, and they've given up 56, even though their pitching staff has pitched well. It just tells you that they're not hitting any home runs, not showing much power as a team.
They're playing the style of ball that was prevalent in baseball when Fenway first opened in the dead ball era. Except most teams had a lot more speed than the Red Sox have now. Fenway opened in 1912.
You know, we talked about not much power from Plantier or Vaughn. That was his first home run of the season.
And there's a ball too low.
I can't even read my own writing. That's his 6th home run this season.
Oh, 6th?
Yeah.
Well, he's almost at the top of the league now.
Right. And his 25th run batted in.
Yeah, now that home run, they had visions of maybe him doing that maybe 30, 35 times a year. Not 6 at the end of July. Maybe he'll still come on. 1-0 to Herm Winningham. There's a pitch out. Harper bounced it into Herbeck. Herbeck's got wonderfully soft hands over there. Knocked it down. 2-0 the count to Herm Winningham.
Well, Harper is not known for his throwing ability. It's a pitch out. Reed not going anyplace. And not a real good throw. The ball bounces away from Herbeck. The pitch out, and he throws directly to first base, but no chance of getting Jody Reed.
And Herbeck didn't really actually stop that one.
No, it's short.
There goes the runner. That is a foul ball. 2-1 the count to Herm Winningham. Winningham's had a long career, mostly in the National League. He used to run real well. A very fine outfielder. Pretty good role player off the bench. He could pinch run for you, play a strong outfield, fill in a few days. And somebody got hurt. You can imagine how astounded he was, Joe, after playing in a place like Montreal most of his career, to come to Fenway and look at the short dimensions in left field and says, why do they want me here?
He's a very good defensive outfielder.
Just off the outside. 3-1. 2-1 Minnesota leading last of the second, but the Red Sox have gotten something going here against Tappahannock.
John, I see now where I said no home runs. He's got no stolen bases. He was 0-3.
Yeah, now that might not change much.
Yeah.
Some year he might hit 35 and still have 0-3. There goes the runner. And the ball is fouled away by Winningham. Full count. Butch Hobson trying to make something happen.
The interesting thing to me about the two players that the Red Sox have picked up, Billy Hatcher and Herm Winningham, is that they're both role-type players. And, you know, that's what they wanted and that's what they expected. But with Greenwell out and Planter and some of the other players not doing what they're supposed to do, they're going to be put into the lineup. So they're a little bit out of their element. They're not everyday players. Or they haven't been.
The outfield straight away. There goes the runner. Strike 3. He's in there. Jody Reed with his 5th steal of the year, and he ties for the team lead.
And he's also been caught 7 times. That is the 32nd stolen base of the season for the Red Sox, and they've been caught 30 times. So it's not something you look forward to if you're Butch Hobson, seeing your runner take off from first. He had a pretty good jump, not a real good one. Tough pitch. Pitch was down and in. Harper had to come up and fire, and he threw a little bit off to the shortstop side. If the ball's on the first base side, he probably gets him out, but it was a tough throw because the ball was down and in.
2 down now. A base hit could tie this game. Jody Reed, one of the faster Red Sox. Here is Tony Pena, having one of his worst years ever with the bat. Only .230 is his batting average. Tampany throws him a strike in his own one. And also, Winningham swung at ball 4 there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see Winningham go ahead and take a walk if he can get it.
There are sometimes if you're the hitter, John, and the runner takes off 3 and 2, you feel you have to protect him, and you swing at bad pitches or anything that you think is close. So it puts a little pressure on the hitter as well as the runner.
Slider misses outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 down. The 9th place hitter, Luis Rivera, is on deck. Minnesota 2. And the Red Sox 1 last of the second. Minnesota with a run of the first and a run of the second. And Mo Vaughn sent one toward Copley Square here in the last of the second for the Red Sox. A ball and a strike. Sinking low. 2-1. By the way, I want to remind you, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. live. That's 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern. The 18-hole playoff in the U.S. Women's Open Golf, featuring Julie Inkster and Patty Sheehan. Don't miss it tomorrow at 11. A lot of excitement there. 2-1 the count to Tony Pena. Nice pickup by Leas. He got it. That's the Twins. They catch just about everything that's hit on the ground. A run and 2 hits for the Red Sox. We'll see Mack, Puckett, and Davis.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. And by ESPN Home Video, producers and distributors of Legends of Baseball. Available at video and retail stores nationwide.
And now, Sunday Night Baseball continues with America's favorite Sunday Night Baseball broadcasters, Joe Morgan and John Miller.
I want to thank that guy.
I had no idea. The favorite, eh? Yes. Here is Shane Mack. Single homer run his first time, leading off for the Twins. 3rd inning. And Hesketh is high and away with ball 1. 2-1 Minnesota leading the Red Sox. 2 runs and 5 hits for the Twins already. 1 run and 2 hits for the Red Sox. Kirby Puckett will follow, and then Chili Davis. Into left center field, into the alleyway. Going to make it the wall on the bounce, and right over the head of Winningham. Mack into second with a double. And he is 2 for 2, and that is 6 hits for the Twins. And the big guys are coming up. Here comes Kirby Puckett.
Hesketh gets the fastball up and out over the plate, and Mack jumps all over it and just lines it up the gap in the left center field. It short hops the wall, hits the concrete, and bounces away. And Mack has a double.
Kirby Puckett. He gets a little bit of a different introduction here at Fenway from Sherm Feller, the longtime voice of Fenway Park, than he does at Minnesota. From Bob Casey, the longtime voice of the Metropolitan Stadium and now the Metrodome. But Kirby loves it the way Bob Casey introduces him at the Metrodome. In the dirt, and Mack will head to third. Well, the Red Sox have been giving away bases in this one.
Well, each time that the Twins have hit a double, the next pitch or two, they get him runner over at third with less than 2 outs. It's a breaking ball in the dirt, and it hits off the shin guard of Pena. He tried to block it, but really no chance, just a wild pitch.
Now runner at third. The Red Sox have Boggs shallow at third. The rest of the infield pretty well backed up.
Yeah, even Vaughn at first is back.
Kirby chase that low slider down and in. He will. Kirby does not walk very often.
No, he's a swinger. I don't use the word hacker with him. He's a swinger.
Yeah. He used to talk about Wade Boggs. He said, hey, Boggs is like a scientist. He knows everything about hitting. Not like me. I just go up there and hope he throws it somewhere where I can hit it. Inside Kirby, when he was a kid growing up in the projects in the south side of Chicago near Comiskey Park, he'd be up playing ball all day long, and it was time for dinner. His mom would lean out the window of the high-rise and just start shouting, Kirby! And that's where Bob Casey got the idea to introduce him that way at the Metrodome. And his late mother, wonderful lady, and Kirby misses her a lot, but it always gives him kind of a warm feeling when he hears that announcement. Makes him think of his mom. Can't imagine Kirby. Can you imagine him saying the Dodgers uniform? Would that be right? Kirby Puckett in a Yankees uniform? Could we handle that?
I think we would have to, but like you say, he belongs in a Minnesota Twins uniform.
Foul back, 2-2 the count. Kirby is having a sensational season. Driving in runs, scoring runs, playing a great center field, hitting for average. And still the heart and soul of the Twins. I mean, he's the guy that the young players look up to.
And the veterans look up to him. He is a real stabilizing influence in the locker room. And everyone loves him. That's the key.
There's a high drive deep in the left center field. Way back there. And it's off the wall. Coming in to score is Mack, and Kirby Puckett has a stand-up double. His 24th double and his 69th run batted in. 3-1 Minnesota.
Well, I thought that ball might hit the yellow line or be out of here for a home run. He hit right at the bottom of the yellow line in left center field. Puckett has a good foundation, stays down on the ball, keeps his head there, and he's basically a hands and arms hitter. He hits with his hands. Well, it's hit about 10 feet below that yellow line. And it's a double for Puckett.
The yellow line signifies the end of the 37-foot high wall.
Right.
In left field, and the beginning of the 18-foot high wall in straightaway center field.
Anything to the right's a home run, correct?
Yeah. If you hit to the right of the yellow line, that's over the 18-foot wall. To the left of the yellow line is still the 37-foot high wall. We've got a pitching change. Joe Hesketh didn't last long. The Twins have knocked him out. Kirby Puckett and the Minnesota Twins, the Sunday night baseball game of the week. And Kirby is 2 for 2. He just hit a double, driving in a run, and he has knocked out the Red Sox starter Joe Hesketh. And the young right-handed Paul John Quantrill comes in. First pitch, base hit, Chili Davis. Here comes Kirby Puckett for the plate. Here comes a throw. He's out. Merriweather called him out, and Kirby can't believe it. Chili Davis taking second in the play. But Herm Winningham will get the assist. And Kirby Puckett is still trying to talk Merriweather out of it. Well, only now leaving the plate.
Kirby Puckett hesitated when he came around third, and that was enough for him to be called out at the plate by Merriweather. It looked like he might have gotten his foot in there, but he hesitated coming around third. I think that cost him the chance. It's a pretty good throw by Winningham, although it took him a long time to get rid of it. Now let's see. Ball bounces right there. Now watch Kirby's foot. See, he's safe. He's already by him. I thought he was safe from my view here, but Merriweather saw it differently.
Now here is Munoz. Well, I mean, the ball was there well before Kirby, but he was well across the plate before he ever got touched.
And that's why Kirby was arguing.
Pedro Munoz grounded into a double play his first time. So it's 3-1 Minnesota, even though the Twins have 8 hits already. They can't break this one open, at least not so far. Wait a minute. There's another base hit. Winningham is going to try it again. No, Chile will hold at third. The throw does come through to the plate. But holding at first is Munoz. There's Davis holding at third.
Take a look at the play with Kirby Puckett on the pitch before. Here's the throw. Now watch and see if Kirby Puckett is not across the plate. The throw does beat him. But see, his foot is already across the plate when Pena tags him. He tagged him right on top of the plate. And Puckett is saying, my foot is already there. But you know what's strange to me? He didn't get any support from anyone else. Everyone else on the Twins must have thought he was out. The on-deck hitter will usually say something, or the manager, but he was definitely safe at the plate.
So the Twins, who've had now 9 hits in the game, and there's Rich Gale, former Major League pitcher, now the pitching coach for the Red Sox, out visiting with Paul Quantrill, who has come on and given up 2 straight hits. And the Twins have 4 straight hits to start this inning.
John, I want to explain something we talked about before, and that's Terry Crowley and how he wants him to put the ball in play. Just think about how many balls we've seen hit back through the middle of the diamond in this ball game. That's where you hit a lot of line drives or your ground balls go through. Even the balls that have been hit off the wall were really back through the middle of the plate. So the Twins are really using the biggest part of the diamond for their base hits, and there's more area obviously to cover back through the middle, even for the shortstop and the second baseman, and for your center fielders and your outfielders to catch. So kind of the Terry Crowley theory at his best here against the Red Sox. They have hit 4 doubles and 5 singles. So
and all of that in 2 1/3 innings. This is Brian Harper, speaking of one of those back through the middle type hitters. He doubled his first time high off the wall in left field and scored a run. 3-1 Minnesota. The Boston bullpen is busy again as Quantrill having a hard time getting anybody out here. Into right field, rather shallow, tagging Chili Davis. Here he comes. Here comes the throw, and he is out. He came in standing up and was tagged out. No evasive action whatsoever. I don't understand that from Chili Davis. Nice little hook slide, and he's got a run.
Definitely, he could have avoided the tag with a slide. Now, the throw bounces high, and that makes Pena have to stay up to catch it. Now, there's Chili Davis. If he has to come back and catch him on the ground, Chili would have been able to slide past him.
Twins only leading 3-1, incredibly. 3-1 Minnesota. I'm sure the Twins feel it should be maybe 7-1 by now. Well, 2 men thrown out at the plate in the inning.
Well, look at, you see Herbeck wave down. That's not a good enough sign to tell Chili Davis to slide. You should be down on your knees waving slide, slide. But Chili Davis has played long enough to know this is going to be a close play at the plate because it was a shallow fly, and he should know he should slide. But he actually goes after Pena instead of the plate. He actually went after the catcher.
Here's Luis Rivera. Gagne. Got it. So Rivera on 1 pitch is retired. Well, the Minnesota Twins. So many hits and so few runs for all of that. 3 runs and 9 hits in 3 innings. They've had an assault on the Red Sox. And Boston pitchers retired only 1 Minnesota batter.
You know, we talked
in the
about,
third.
In the open, we talked about them hitting with runners in scoring position. They're 5 for 9 in tonight's ballgame.
But only 3 runs.
Right.
With those 5 hits with men in scoring position. Strike 1 to Wade Boggs. He lined to short his first time. You know, the Twins earlier this week had some frustrating games.
Yeah.
Where the same thing happened. I mean, they had a game where 2 runs, 12 hits, and lost. So sometimes they get the hits and don't get the runs. And if they come back and lose this ball game, these first 3 innings might well be where they lost it.
The interesting thing about Puckett to me was he hesitated around third as if he had not picked up the third base coach, or the third base coach hadn't made up his mind yet. And then he took one false step, so to speak, and then took off again. I still thought he was safe, but it would not have even been that close if he wouldn't have hesitated. And Chili Davis not sliding, I have no reason for that. It just looked like he didn't slide. He went after the catcher instead of sliding.
It is now 2-2 to Wade Boggs, back in the leadoff spot. And Red Sox just don't have a leadoff hitter, and Boggs always ends up back there because he got that great on-base percentage. He gets on base all the time. Still outside. He's the only Red Sox hitter, Butch Hobson says, who's patient enough to hit leadoff.
Well, you know, ideally you want a leadoff hitter that is patient, but to me you need a leadoff hitter that can make things happen.
Into center. Here comes Puckett. Out number 2.
And by making things happen, I mean being able to run some speed, put some pressure on the defense.
Tomorrow, 11 a.m., an 18-hole playoff. Julie Inkster and Patty Sheehan, the U.S. Women's Open Golf Tournament. 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. And they'll have it hole by hole. It's 11 Eastern, 10 Central, 8 Pacific. Here's Billy Hatcher. Now, Hatcher's one of those guys who can make things happen. At least he used to be. Used to be a very good base stealer. Slowed down a little bit now, but he never walks.
Well, over the weekend, John, it was strange. I was going to say that myself, but I watched the 3 games over the weekend, and he walked twice in the first game of the doubleheader, and he made a couple of things happen. He walked in the second game. So, I mean, he has walked like 3 or 4 times over the weekend, but he is not known for his patience at the plate.
Foul into those seats. There are no seats like those in any other ballpark.
And that line drive will tell you that there may not be many more.
I mean,
it's dangerous.
Those seats are maybe 100 feet behind the third base bag, and they come right out next to the foul line. Look how close they are to the action. What great seats, but you better stay lively down there. Down the right field line. That's a fair ball. Hatcher's going to try for 2, and he's going to make it easily. The throw comes in from Munoz. Wrong way double by Billy Hatcher. And that keeps the inning going for Phil Plantier, who is the possible tying run here.
Again, Hatcher, to me, is a pretty smart hitter as well. And in fact, he's a smart baseball player. And he does what he has to do. He's not a pull hitter. He'll fight the ball off as he does here and just goes the other way. The ball is inside. And as I mentioned earlier, the inside pitch is actually the easiest pitch to go the other way on. We see Wade Boggs do it quite often.
Here is Plantier. He struck out looking his first time. So much expected of him after a great final 2 months last year. Foul ball.
Well, you have to remember 2 things. First of all, the opposing teams did not have a book on Plantier last year. They had not seen him very often. They didn't know exactly how they wanted to pitch him. They don't face many people with that type of stance, so you don't know exactly where the weakness in that stance is. So it took them a while to understand and decide how they wanted to pitch him. And so now it's up to him to make the adjustment back to how they're pitching him.
2 down, runner at second. Strike 2 call. Plantier is only 23 years of age. And in 53 games last year, he hit .331 with 11 homers. And that was only in 148 at-bats. They had penciled him in for 35 homers long before the season ever started. But so far, he only has hit 6, the same as Mo Vaughn.
Well, lucky they have an eraser on that pencil, because 35 home runs is a lot of home runs anyway, but I know what you mean. We talked to Lou Gorman the other night, and he felt that, you know, Plantier was going to hit 25 to 35 home runs as well.
Off-speed delivery. Into right field knob-block. From his knees, the throw. Safe! Here comes Hatcher, and he scores all the way from second base.
And that's what we're talking about, making things happen. I'd rather have a lower percentage on base average from my leadoff hitter who can make things happen than to have a high percentage with a player that plays station to station. Boggs is a station to station leadoff hitter. Hatcher can make things happen. It's a great play by Knobloch to keep the ball on the infield. Doesn't get anything on the throw. And Herbeck, by the time he realizes Hatcher is running, no chance to get him at the plate. This is what I meant by Jody Reed. The toughest part is making the throw from your knees. And we see here Knobloch not able to make the same type of throw that Jody Reed made earlier in the game.
All around New England, fans are saying, wait a minute, he scored from second on an infield hit?
Right.
Is that legal? Nice play by Gagne to retire the side, robbing his old teammate Brunansky. And the Twins, if it's on the ground, they're liable to catch it. 3-2 Minnesota after 3. Here come the Twins into the 4th inning. Kent Herbeck, the hitter, against the right-hander Paul Quantrill from Canada, from London, Ontario. Although he went to college at the University of Wisconsin, played baseball in the Big Ten, was a team MVP one year at Wisconsin. Herbeck into center field, Winningham back, turns, and it's up near the doorway. Herbeck heading for second. Hatcher, who hustled over to back up, throws in too late. A double for Kent Herbeck. And it was, I had it backwards there. No, I had it right.
You had it right.
It was Hatcher who backed up the play, yeah. I keep thinking Hatcher is a center fielder.
But again, a lot of action in center field by the Twins hitters. Everything is driven right back through the middle. And that's where there are a lot of base hits. You have to be powerful, of course, to hit the center field fence. Winningham goes back. He realizes he can't catch it. Hits high off the fence. Bounces past him. And as you said, Billy Hatcher. Nice play by Hatcher there to back up. But it's a double.
Any ball on that side of the field, both outfielders always have to go for it, because there's no telling how a carom is going to come off that wall.
But the interesting thing, one goes after the ball, the other backs him up.
Yeah.
You can't have both of them going after it at the same time.
But the important thing there is having Hatcher has to get over there to back up his center fielder. Here's Leas, who singled home a run his first time. Takes ball one from Quantrill. 3-1, or rather 3-2 now. Minnesota ahead in the 4th inning. I see people in New England now asking for rule books, Joe. Now, Dia, he scored from second base, and the ball never left the infield. Is that fair?
Something unusual.
I've never heard of that.
Not normally seen here.
It's going on at Fenway
Sox.
Park. Indeed. 1 ball, 1 strike to Leas. Crowd was astounded here, weren't they? Next thing, they'll be putting artificial turf in here. Here's Mo Vaughn to get Leas, but he hit the ball to the right side and got his man over to third base with Gagne coming up. And let's go to Gary Miller.
John, Budweiser takes us to Kingdom. Kevin Mitchell had only 5 home runs coming into the day. This is his second of the game, a monster blast off Tim Burke, and they win it 8-5. If the Twins should lose tonight, Seattle could creep within 21. Back to you.
All right, Gary, thank you. And I've been watching Kevin Mitchell in the box scores, and he's been on an RBI tear without the homers this week. 4 RBIs today. He's got 50 RBIs for the season now.
As you know, and I've said all along, I'm a Kevin Mitchell fan. He hits the ball hard. I mean, I've been watching highlights on ESPN, as you say, driving in runs this past couple of weeks. A lot of hard line drives, not out of the ballpark, but up against the wall, and etc. He's hitting the ball hard.
Well, now the Red Sox are going to bring the infield in as Greg Gagne comes up. The Twins have 10 hits in the game, including 5 doubles. In each of the first 4 innings of this game, the first batter of the inning has hit a double, but they only have 3 runs home so far.
Let me ask you a question here. Okay, why would you not bring the infield in the second inning with a 1-0 deficit, and you will bring it in now 3-2?
Because Herbeck was up, and now it's just Greg Gagne.
Okay. Well, remember, Herbeck struck out.
But with the infield back.
Right, but then why didn't you bring it in after he struck out? I'm trying to figure this out myself, is the point.
Because it was only the second inning.
Oh, well, this is the 4th inning.
And because Hobson knew the Red Sox were going to bust loose all over the place here tonight.
Okay. I just wanted to understand that.
1-1 the count to Gagne.
Doesn't work in the second, but it does in the 4th. Okay, I understand.
Let's see, the score at the time of the second was 1-0. Yeah.
Now it's 3-2.
Okay. There's Kent Herbeck over at third. Let's see, you had Harper at third.
Okay, now I understand.
What?
All right, Herbeck runs slower than whoever was it. Yeah. How's that? I'm trying to I'm coming up with something
Well, that's
here
a good point, though.
I'm trying to explain that to the viewers. But if you're playing the infield in, it doesn't matter whether it's Carl Lewis at third or whatever. If you're playing the infield in, that's to keep them from scoring.
I mean, there is a rule of thumb, and particularly here at Fenway Park, hey, don't play the infield in the second inning.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
I mean, there'd be some traditionalists who would say, hey, fourth inning, play the infield in?
Well, that's what I was looking for. They don't play the infield in here at Fenway Park in the second inning. I'm glad.
And they never used to in the fourth until tonight.
Oh, okay. There's Butch Hobson and
Joe, you need to stay in New England for another few days, I think, to get the whole feel for this place.
Okay.
2-2 the count to Gagne. And he fouls it back. On deck, the leadoff man, Chuck Knobloch. Think back to that 75 World Series. When did they play the infield in at Fenway Park?
Well,
do you have any memories of them ever doing it?
No, they didn't do it then. You're right.
Because they always knew that Bernie Carbo or Fred Lynn would come up and hit a 3-run shot. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Oh, they want to have 1 run? Fine.
Yeah.
Those were different days for the Red Sox than currently.
And I'm sure Hobson obviously has his own reasons for doing this and for not doing it.
Oh, now don't let him off the hook.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying he has his own reasons. I'm not saying they're valid. I'm just saying that I'm sure he has his own reasons for doing this. And maybe, you know, we'll ask him.
Listen to this crowd. Sounds just like Lou Whitaker walked in. 2-2 the count. Butch Hobson out of Alabama. The Crimson Tide of Alabama. Played for Coach Paul Bear Bryant. Strike 3 called on the inside corner. Gagne strikes out for the second straight time.
And the infield in, it worked so far. Now they can go back. Good fastball on the inside part of the plate. Gagne's kind of protecting the outside, and the fastball's on the inside, 89-mile-an-hour fastball. And Quantrill gets the second out of the inning.
Now leadoff man Knobloch. He led off the night with a double, scored a run, and then was robbed of a hit and a run batted in by, well, maybe not a run batted in, but robbed of a hit in the second inning by Jody Reed, one of the great plays of the night. And he takes ball 1.
And we've actually seen some very good plays tonight. One by Knobloch, of course, did not save a run because of the speed of Billy Hatcher, but the other one by the second baseman, Jody Reed.
Twins need this game. They've got a showdown with Oakland beginning tomorrow night. If they lose, they'll only be 2 up. And the Athletics coming in.
And Oakland has their pitching rotation set.
That's a foul out of play off to the right.
They've got Bob Welch, Mike Moore, and Dave Stewart.
The big guys.
Big guys are waiting for Minnesota when they get home tomorrow, starting tomorrow.
Now here Eckersley might be well rested. I mean, pitched since yesterday.
I was going to say it doesn't matter. If they get to the 8th inning, they lose anyway. Although he gave up a home run the other day to Candy Maldonado.
Yeah, he's falling apart. He's only 3-0 with 31 saves now.
And every game he's pitched in, they've won.
His ERA is almost up to 1 full run a game. There you see those matchups, and the Twins threesome. They don't give away anything.
Not too bad.
Smiley's having a great year. Erickson just pitched a one-hitter and beat Clemens, and then Bill Kruger, one of the top stories of the year. 2-1, and now Knobloch backs away. The Twins have not been able to get their runners home. They've had 10 hits in the game. The Red Sox have committed 2 wild pitches. The Twins have had 5 doubles. This is only the 4th inning, and 3 runs to show for all of that. And this script has been written in other games earlier this week. A couple of games with Cleveland earlier in the week were like this for them. Right center field. Somebody should get this, and Brunansky steps in front of Winningham. The bigger guy took it, and Winningham said, yeah. That's the way we do it in Boston. Vaughn will lead it off. 3-2 Twins. Man, that was some talent there. There's number 8. His number retired and honored up on the roof down the right field line. Here is Mo Vaughn against Tapani. A sinker misses. Vaughn hit a home run that would have done Yaz and Williams both very proud back over the Boston bullpen into the bleachers. Tapani keeping it away from him here. 1 ball, 1 strike. Big Mo out of Seton Hall University. And he's had a real difficult year. Got sent down to the minor leagues. Has had his differences with Butch Hobson. But Everybody forgot all about that when he came up in the second inning and did this.
The sound told you where it was going.
Yeah, over the bullpen. What a shot. Changeup. 2-2. They measured that one at 407 feet out there. And it got into the first row of the bleachers. I mean, that was, you know, until they built those bullpens in Ted Williams' second year, this was not any kind of a home run hitter's park. It was 332 down the right field line. It's 302 now down the right field line. And that one misses. 3-2 the count.
Oh, that's why I didn't end up with 500 home runs. They didn't build a park for me.
Yeah. Those bullpens were called, they called that Williamsburg. And the stands around the right field foul pole were also installed at that time. That is a fair ball. Herbeck will take it himself. One away.
To be honest with you, John, after watching Ted Williams and seeing the numbers he put up, I don't think he really needed any help.
Well, that rookie season, he certainly did not. I mean, without the ballpark being tailored for him, I mean, he had an astounding season. What did he have as a rookie? 145 RBI, something like that. Incredible.
That's the number 9 on the wall that has been retired. Jersey number 9.
Ted Williams, Joe Cronin, Bobby Dorr, and Carl Yastrzemski. As a rookie, Peter Pasquarelli has looked it up for us. Ted Williams had 31 homers and 145 RBIs as a rookie.
Yeah, he needed help. He really needed a lot of help.
Of course, he only hit 327.
Yeah.
Williams, Cronin, Dorr, and Yaz. The fabled Red Sox heroes, numbers retired.
What's that superstition of those numbers? That's the day they traded Babe Ruth.
No, September the 4th, 1918. It was the night before the last World Series that the Red Sox ever won.
Oh.
September the 4th, 1918. Come on.
Hey.
I told
like
you
you said, I'm not from Boston.
I've told you that before.
September 4th, 1918, a little before my time. Not a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, Bench was playing that. 3-1 the count now to Jody Reed. He singled his first time, stole a base, and he made the defensive play of the night so far, robbing Knobloch of a hit, his opposite number. 3-2, Minnesota leading, last of the 4th. Leas. Herbeck went down to get it, and that is the second out. 2 men down. And remember, tomorrow, 11 a.m., Julie Inkster versus Patty Sheehan. They'll go 18 holes to determine a winner of the U.S. Women's Open Golf Tournament tomorrow on ESPN 11. Don't miss it.
I watched most of that today. In fact, when I left, it was the 16th hole, and it was raining, and Julie Inkster had a 1-shot lead, so Patty caught her before the 18th hole.
Here's Herm Winningham. Struck out his first time. Ran up as if to butt. Takes a strike. You're watching the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball game of the week. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan. We're at Fenway Park in Boston. Kind of a wild start to this ball game. We're only in the 4th inning. Minnesota leading 3-2. The Twins with 10 hits already. And the Red Sox. What a play by Gagne. Winningham's bid for the Red Sox 5th hit. Taken away, and we have seen the Twins rob the Red Sox 3 or 4 times already tonight. Tonight is the last night of the Subway Grand Slam Challenge. After any home run in tonight's game, we'll call a fan. And if the fan knows who hit the homer, they win $1,000 for each run scored on the home run. A Grand Slam wins $50,000. We'll call till we get a winner, and everyone called wins a $5 Subway gift certificate. If there's no Grand Slam hit, our drawing will determine the winner of the $50,000. To enter, call 1-900-737-ESPN. The call costs 95 cents, and under 18 needs parents' permission. So grab yourself a Subway sandwich and enjoy the ball game. And we've given away $22,000 so far, not including the home run hit tonight by Mo Vaughn. Like my Subway on the whole wheat, freshly baked.
Okay.
Shane Mack has single home run. He has doubled and scored a run. Quantrill. The fastball inside, ball 1. what action we've had here tonight, Joe. This makes me feel like October.
Well, you know me, I don't like 1-0 pitchers duels. I like to see some action.
Some base hits.
Hitters getting hits.
Got the base hits. We got the great defense.
Yeah.
Feels like October, Joe. We're in Fenway Park. Is this the perfect place to be in October? You should just always have the postseason in this ballpark.
Well, I don't think we're going to have that this year, John.
Doesn't look like it. That would be one of the astounding stories of the year if there's October baseball in Fenway.
I really can't get over when I watch the Minnesota Twins how they keep everything towards the middle of the diamond. You see a lot of teams pulling off of pitches, trying to pull the ball. The Twins are just not that type of hitters. I like the way their approach to hitting. And there's Shane Mack with his nice haircut.
I sent him to my barber.
Yeah, nice haircut. Chili Davis has one of those as well.
Yeah. Some of the guys feel like my look is the best for them.
Yeah.
Haven't convinced you yet. There's Kirby Puckett. Ooh. Kirby was looking to send one out onto Lansdowne Street, or as they call it now, Williams Way.
Well, he is a first ball hitter, and we mentioned that earlier. He will swing. He hacks. Like he's not going to take a walk unless it's intentional.
That's a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Lansdowne Street, out behind the left field wall, renamed Ted Williams Way this year. There's Kirby when he hits that first pitch. He tried to in this at bat. And there's a little slider that misses. 2-1. Kirby's average now at .337. He has a single on a bunt, and he has doubled off the wall out in center field with a run batted in. Boggs. And Puckett retired for the first time. Well, they got Mack for the first time, and now Puckett. And those missed opportunities are haunting Tom Kelly's Minnesota Twins right now. They lead 3-2 and had 2 men gunned down at the plate in the 3rd inning alone. One by Herm Winningham. He got Puckett, but Kirby to this day, to this moment, won't believe this one.
And I kind of agree with Kirby. Look, his foot's already on the plate, and you see the tag by Pena.
Wasn't really even that close. And Brunansky on the tag up got Chili Davis moments later.
And Chili just doesn't slide, so he's out easily.
And here is Chili Davis taking ball 1. Davis has flied out to right center, and he's singled back in the 3rd. 1 for 2. He is hitting .290.
Chili had 4 base hits the other day, John, and I'll save it for next time.
Old Vaughn grabs it. 4 base hits, and we'll pick it up. We go to the last of the 5th inning. 3-2 Twins. Thank you, Gary. And the Oakland Athletics are hoping that the lead will be down to 2 games in the American League West after tonight. But the Athletics will need some help from the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox trailing 3-2 to the Twins. But the Twins have been unable to put the Sox away. Held without a hit here in the 5th inning for the first time tonight with the Twins. They had 9 hits in the first 3 innings, but only 3 runs. Here is Pena, and he takes a ball. Sometimes that will happen when you don't have a whole lot of power.
Yes, exactly.
Remember those Pirates teams of the late 60s, early 70s. I mean, they always had 6 300 hitters, but not a whole lot of power other than maybe Stargell. And
right.
You know, a couple guys might hit a few, but they'd have those 2 runs and 12 hits games every once in a while. Pena to center. Kirby Puckett. There's one away. Pena's 0 for 2. Coming up now, next Saturday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific, NFL football from the Tokyo Dome. The Houston Oilers and Warren Moon meet the Dallas Cowboys. Early preseason football on ESPN next Saturday night, live from Tokyo, 10 o'clock Eastern. Here now is Luis Rivera.
We should go to Tokyo and do a preseason game next year.
Hi.
Hi.
Watashiwa Fenway Park. Ni Orimas. Luis Rivera. 0 for 1. Grounded to short his first. I did a game from Tokyo about 4 years ago. The U.S. Major League Baseball All-Stars went over there, played the Japanese. We did a couple of games from The Big Egg, they call it, the Tokyo Dome. Maybe playable for Herbeck. It is. And Rivera fouls out to first.
Did they call you Johnson?
They called me Mira-san. That's the closest they could come to Miller.
Oh.
I met the great broadcaster, the Tokyo Giants, Genshiro Asami, when I was over there.
I was over a couple of years ago, and they called me Little Joe.
An odd name. Here's Wade Ball. Why would they ever call you that? They had a real hard time.
You got to remember, I'm smaller than they are.
Harold Reynolds went over there, right?
Yeah.
And they called him Haraudu Renodzu. Wade Boggs.
Where is Herbeck going?
Tapping against the put out. Herbeck's out in shallow center field. Herbeck thought it was a pass play. Into 5, 3-2 Twins. Here come the Twins into the 6th inning. Minnesota 3 and the Red Sox 2. Pedro Munoz leads it off for Minnesota. Slider from Quantrill misses. Munoz has grounded into a double play, and he is singled 1 for 2. 3 runs and 10 hits for the Twins. 2 runs and 4 hits for the Red Sox. That'll go back out of play off to the right.
John, as a friend of John McMullen's, former owner of the Astros, I'm a little disappointed, you know, that he sold, because I know that he really came into the game wanting to get a championship for the Houston Astros. So it has been sold now, and, you know, looking forward to, you know, Houston having some good years in the future. But growing up in that organization and becoming friends with the owner, John McMullen, you know, I'm a little disappointed that he didn't get the championship that he sought, but I'm happy for him because, you know, he was able to get out of, you know, sell the team and go forward with his life. So good luck to you, John.
And it's 2-2. A lot of folks in Houston, from the reports I've read, are very excited that he sold the team.
Well, I think there was a lot of misunderstandings between the fans of Houston and the ownership.
3-2 now to Munoz. Well, he has left the owner-to-be with a very fine nucleus of a real solid ball club.
That's the point I was making. They have done a good job of acquiring some good talent there.
That's a foul ball. Bob Watson, Bill Wood and company, Art Howe, the manager.
And some fine young players. They're, like you say, they've got the nucleus of a very good ball club. So,
you know, I've heard Peter Gammon say it a couple of times, Joe, that situation in Houston, a lot better right now and boding much better for the future than, say, the Dodgers situation, or here with the Red Sox.
Good point.
Deep third, bobbled by Boggs. Got it. Munoz retired, 1 away in the Minnesota 6th inning. Tomorrow night, that showdown begins at the Metrodome. Mark McGuire and the Oakland Athletics meet Kirby Puckett and the Minnesota Twins Monday Night Baseball, and you'll be able to pick them up again Wednesday. Ricky Henderson and the Athletics and the Twins Wednesday at 8:30. Monday at 8, Wednesday at 8:30. The Athletics and the Twins from the Metrodome. Here is Brian Harper, who has doubled and flied out into a double play, and he takes ball 1. Harper hitting .303. 3-2 Minnesota leading. Top of the 6th. That's a foul ball. So what were those pitching matchups again? I misplaced them there.
You got Erickson against who's pitching tomorrow?
Oh, Erickson's not tomorrow. He's Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Isn't he? Yeah. Smiley and Welch tomorrow. That's it.
Yeah, and then Erickson and Moore, and then Stewart
and Kruger. Yeah.
And Kruger.
And there's ball 2, 2-1. I'm just thinking, is that right? Yeah, there it is.
There you go.
Welch and Smiley tomorrow. Moore and Erickson Tuesday, and then Wednesday back on TV on ESPN with Stewart and Kruger. There's a ground ball to short. And Rivera has thrown out Brian Harper. We got like a
smorgasbord.
What do we have, like a potluck up here or what? We got these Subway sandwiches, and now Bobby and Woody from over at the Pizza Pad in Kenmore Square have sent us some of their famous Boston pizza. And we got a plate full of brownies and whatnot.
Makes it tough to stay in shape here.
2 down and nobody out.
Sunday night baseball.
Yeah. Kent Herbeck, the hitter. See, Herbeck's the kind of guy I'd love to be up here with us for this.
Wait a minute. He was sprinting a second ago when we last saw him. He was running out for a pass from Warren Moon or something.
Ground ball to second, and he was wide open, too. Great athlete, and they give him a lot of grief. Seems like every spring he comes to camp very much overweight, and they worry about his future. He struggles down there this year in particular because he separated his shoulder during the spring. He was on the disabled list when the season started. A ball and a strike, and many long essays written in the Minnesota papers that, hey, Herbeck is going to play himself out much earlier than he should. He's just going to go all of a sudden. He's not having a big number of years so far, but only 11 home runs. But again,
he's got a ways to go, and he can get hot, John.
Yeah.
A player of his caliber can get hot and put up some big numbers.
He's one of those 5 or 6 homers in a week type guys.
Right.
Foul off the left field line. He just broke out of an 0 for 19 when he led off the 4th inning tonight with a double. We're in the 6th inning now. Minnesota leading Boston 3-2.
Well, you know, most of all, I think he's underrated defensively. I think he's a very good defensive first baseman. Saves his infielders a lot of errors on bad throws, and he covers a lot of ground, as we saw a second ago. But he does cover a lot of ground in the hole.
Into center field, Winningham drifting back a little bit. Looks like the wind is carrying it, and he's got it. That's the inning. Quantrill has retired 9 in a row. 3-2 Minnesota after 5 1/2.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud. And by Phillips Petroleum, the performance company.
Sailing on the Charles, and earlier today when the sun was out, a beautiful day in Boston, and there were nautical types all around the Charles, right along the Esplanade between Boston and Cambridge. Very beautiful. Here is Billy Hatcher. He doubled his last time, and then really he scored a run that was entirely his own production. He had a double and then scored from second base on an infield hit by Phil Plantier. 3-2 Minnesota leading, last of the 6th. Kevin Tapani. Rays strike 1-2. On deck is Plantier, and then Tom Brunansky. 3 runs and 10 hits for the Twins. 2 runs and 4 hits for the Red Sox. Greg Gagney's taken away a couple of hits from the Red Sox tonight. Third baseline. Nice pickup by Leyes. He got him.
We're definitely seeing some big league plays here tonight.
That is a tough play. That wasn't like just a little short hop there.
Anytime you have to backhand the ball and it's not on a short hop, that makes it tough. See, that's kind of the in-between hop. That's the toughest hop to catch, even when you're facing the ball, and to do it on a backhand is doubly tough. Good feet movement. To be a good infielder, you have to have good live feet. You can see he kind of crossed over. He did not stumble over to the ball.
Phil Plantier, the hitter, and he fouls one off to the left in amongst the spectators on the third base side, of which there are many tonight. It is all sold out at Fenway Park. There you get a look. Ballpark opened in 1912. Redesigned a few times over the years. 0-2 the count to Plantier. Fenway, as it exists today, has existed in this configuration since about 1947. That's very high. 1-2. When they first built it, the center field bleachers and even that left field grandstand that juts out to the foul line, that was all wooden. Let me get a look. It's high and away. They rebuilt the ballpark when Tom Yawkey bought the club in the 30s. And then they rebuilt it again for Ted Williams with the bullpens and a few extra seats along the right field area. Strike 3. Plantier is down. 4 strikeouts for Tapani.
Pitch is down and away, and actually a ball. You can see Plantier pulls right off. Watch his front shoulder. Everything is gone. no chance of hitting the ball. You go to the ball with your upper part of your body when it breaks away like that, and he was pulling off of it.
Brunansky takes high. I've heard some scouts criticize Plantier with that deep crouch and that uppercut swing, that he's bound to hit just a lot of pop-ups and hit under the ball all the time.
Well, it's like anything else. If it works for him, it can work. That is a tough swing to make work when you have that big an uppercut, but the great Ted Williams had a slight uppercut in his swing. This is a big uppercut, but apparently it has worked for him in the minor leagues. So it's a little bit more like him adjusting to that swing. It's a difficult situation to hit in when you're sitting in a crouch like that and then you take an uppercut. Everything has to be perfect. Your timing has to be perfect.
2-1 to Brunansky. 2 down, nobody on. 6th inning, Boston trailing by a run. Right up the middle, base hit. Hit number 5 of the Red Sox. And now Big Mo Vaughn comes up. Has hit the game's only home run tonight, back in the 2nd inning. Now the crowd shouting Mo's name. It's low. 1 ball and no strikes. Vaughn is in one of his best streaks of the year right now. Two-0. You hear this Fenway crowd trying to get the Red Sox going. There is Rick Burleson, former great Red Sox shortstop, recently installed as the third base coach in place of Don Zimmer, who now is in the dugout as the bench coach, assisting Butch Hobson. Burleson, the third base coach, is also the hitting instructor. Strike, 2-1. Vaughn turning the question the call of Chuck Merriweather. Butch Hobson. And Zimmer managed this ball club back in the 70s. That's Red Sox baseball at its most explosive. 1977. Wilson at short, Hobson at third. They hit 213 home runs here. And Hobson, very often hitting ninth, hit 30 of them. There's Zim, along with Butch Hobson. Changed up on him. 2-2 the count. Seems like everything Tapani throws is either at different speed, or it moves, it sinks, it darts.
Well, he has excellent stuff and excellent movement on his pitches. It's not so much how hard you throw, it's really how much movement you have. Either you throw hard enough to overpower the hitter, or you have a lot of movement on your fastball or your breaking ball.
Back to the bag at first is Brunansky. Kevin Tapani, 28 years of age, from Des Moines, Iowa, originally. And he was one of those acquired in the big Frank Viola trade from the Mets in 1989. Viola now here with the Red Sox. Tapani was 16-9 last year for the Twins. Fouled it off. 2-2, just barely getting a piece of that one. Let's move on. Tapani tonight, 2 runs, 5 hits allowed, no walks, and he rarely walks anybody. Last year he pitched 244 innings, gave them a lot of innings, and walked only 40. It's about once every 6 innings on the average that he walks somebody. Kelly calling signs for Harper there?
Well, he's either calling signs or the pitch out. With a runner at first, oftentimes a manager will call for the pitch out or to throw to first base. Very rarely in today's game do the managers call pitches themselves.
Kevin Tapani out of Central Michigan University. 3-2 pitch, runner goes. That is to Herbeck. There's a little split-fingered fastball he's throwing there. He got it. That's it for the Red Sox. 3-2 Twins. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Kirby Puckett and the world champion Minnesota Twins in Fenway Park leading the Red Sox 3-2, and we head into the late innings. Here is Leyes. First ball swinging against Quantrill. Wade Boggs throws him out. And Leyes is now 1 for 3. Paul Quantrill, the young right-hander from London, Ontario, has been rather something here, especially keeping in mind that he allowed base hits to each of the first 2 hitters he faced when he entered in the 3rd inning. Got a little help. Winningham threw out Puckett at the plate. And then Brunansky threw out Chili Davis at the plate later in the inning. And Quantrill hasn't had much trouble ever since. He has retired 10 straight Twins. Here's Gagne, who struck out twice. Red Sox with the bullpen getting busy again. There is Darrell Irvin, right-hander. He was the winner here Friday night in the 2nd game of the doubleheader. And it is 2-0. We're pleased to have with us tonight here at Fenway Park some representatives of ESPN International. Our games are seen all over the world. And Sebastian Dominguez, Jose Roig, and Elena Oliver are here. They provide Spanish commentary in our telecasts. Sunday Night Baseball all around South America and Central America as well. There's a strike to Gagne, 3-1. So, bienvenidos a la Fenway Park y Sunday Night Baseball. Sebastian Dominguez, Jose Roig, and Elena Oliver. 3-1 the count. Base hit. First Minnesota base runner since the 4th inning when Herbeck doubled. Hit number 11 for the Twins. Tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. on ESPN, exclusive coverage of the U.S. Women's Open Golf Tournament, an 18-hole playoff. Is that a little pressure or what? You're the only 2 on the course for 18 holes. Julie Inkster and Patty Sheehan, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
It'll be a little bit more like match play tomorrow when there are only 2 in the field.
Here is Chuck Knobloch. Every Twin starter has had at least a hit tonight. Knobloch 1 for 3, Mack 2 for 3, Puckett 2 for 3, and everybody else from Chili Davis on through Gagne, the 9th place hitter, with 1 hit. But the Twins have not received a single walk from Red Sox pitching. Quantrill has been in there for 4 1/3 innings in relief of Hesketh. The starter, Hesketh, went 2 innings plus, gave up 3 runs and 7 hits. Quantrill in 4 1/3 innings, no runs, 4 hits. Gagne, the runner at first. Gagne with 5 steals. Knobloch base hit. Gagne will stop at second as Hatcher charges the ball into shallow left field. And now Quantrill is in trouble because you got Shane Mack, Kirby Puckett, Chili Davis and company coming up. And they've got Irvin warming up in the bullpen. So Quantrill keeping the Red Sox in this ball game. They could have blown it open when he first came in, and they did not.
And he could be getting a little tired.
Quantrill in his 3rd big league game and has now pitched a total of 7 innings without allowing a run.
In the last 3 days.
Yeah, and has not allowed a walk. There's Irvin, the right-hander. Next Sunday night, we'll be in Kansas City. We mentioned the Oakland Athletics in Minnesota this week. The big showdown series, and we'll see the Athletics next weekend at Royal Stadium in Kansas City. McGuire, Canseco and company. George Brett and the Royals will take them on. The Royals are a vastly different club than the one that started the season so dismally.
Well, I won't be there now. I'm going up.
Yeah, but you'll be
elbows with
you'll
the
be
Hall
tuned
of
in.
Famers.
You'll be tuned in. That's right. The next week, the Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, next Sunday in Cooperstown. I'll going up to watch Tom Seaver will be inducted, Raleigh Fingers, people that I played with and against.
All of you baseball immortals will be gathering. We talked about Ted Williams. He'll be up there.
Right.
Does Yastrzemski go to those things?
I don't think Yaz was there last year.
So next Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, we'll see the Athletics and the Royals. And right now we're going to see a new pitcher, 3-2 Minnesota. It is 3-2 Minnesota, but look at those totals. 3 runs and 12 hits for the Twins. But now they got 2 men on, 1 man out, and Shane Mack coming to the plate, and Darrell Irvin has entered the fray for the Old Town team.
Well, if you look at his numbers, he's struck out 4, given up 4 base on balls. Obviously, that's not a good ratio. And he's given up 15 hits in 14 innings. So he's got some weak areas there, meaning that he walks a few people, and he's also given up a lot of base hits.
He's been in the Red Sox farm system since 1985. There are the runners. Gagne over at second base. He singled. And Knobloch at first base, who also singled. The crowd very quiet here at Fenway Park. Shane Mack has singled and doubled, 2 for 3. Reed coming in behind the runner at second. Bluffing the pickoff there was Irvin. Gagne back easily, no throw. Twins, so many hits and so few runs. But they've got the big guns up there now. Mack, who even when they got him out, hit the ball hard, a liner to Jody Reed back in the 5th. Hitting .306. Ball 1. Kirby Puckett is on deck. Chili Davis after that. And the crowd here at Fenway Park, they well know that the Twins could bust the game open right here with these hitters up.
Well, they have the ability to put 6, 7 straight hits together, and in this situation with a couple of runners on, you can break the game open.
A ball and no strikes. Broken bat, and this one will land on top of the Boston dugout. Mo Vaughn gave chase over there, along with Ed Hickox, the umpire. 1 ball, 1 strike.
The style that they use, the hitters for the Twins, you can get inside on them. You can throw the fastball in if you get it in tight, and that's what we just saw there from Irving throwing into Shane Mack. Good fastball in. There's Terry Crawley. He's the hitting instructor. The plus from staying in as you do, you're not going to be fooled a lot by the breaking ball. You're not going to pull off. You're not going to pull your shoulders away, which will pull your head away. So you're going to stay on the ball longer. Thus, they hit a lot of balls back through the middle, as we've shown tonight and seen, and a lot of line drives the other way. So they're basically a line drive hitting ball club.
Terry Crowley, by the way, we just saw his 2 sons playing minor league baseball right now, Terry Jr. and Jimmy Crowley. Mack with his new bat. They go inside, but this time Shane lays off. 2-1. Both bullpens are quiet now. Irvin, the 3rd Boston pitcher of the game. Shane Mack drove in a run, the very first run, with a single in the 1st. Doubled and scored a run in the 3rd. It goes in again, and this time Mack takes ball 3. 3-1.
Well, the other thing about the Twins, though, normally they're not real patient. There's Kirby Puckett on deck. He is definitely not patient. But so far in this at bat, Mack has been patient, although he swung at the 1 bad pitch. But he's been patient on the pitches that they've tried to get him to chase inside.
Three and 1. He walks him in front of Kirby Puckett. The bases are loaded for what most people consider to be the leading candidate right now for the MVP in the American League, Kirby Puckett. And now Pena will go out and visit with Darrell Irvin. Kirby with a bunt single in the 1st, doubled home a run off the center field wall in the 3rd, and then grounded a 3rd in the 5th. 2 for 3.
And again, Irving has to be very careful with the first pitch to Puckett.
Indeed, Kirby hitting well over 400 when he puts that first pitch in play. He's the prototype of what they call the first ball fastball hitter.
But he can also handle the breaking ball. Real good right-handed hitter. He's probably the best right-handed hitter in the game.
Bases loaded. Gagne at 3rd, Knobloch at 2nd, Mack at 1st. 1 out. That's a base hit. He just chopped down on it. 1 run scores. Here comes Knobloch. Hatcher's throw. Safe. It's away from Pena. Down to third goes Mack. He'll make it there. Throw much too late. Puckett holding it first. Where does Kirby think he is? The Metrodome? He just chopped down on that one. That's his Metrodome hack. Let's see, which pitch was that? Was that the first pitch?
First pitch, fastball, and it's a base hit. And as we mentioned, you have to be careful with him. It's a sinker, and he gets on top of it. It's going down, as you could see, and he hits the top of it. And he hits it so hard, it just bounces over the head of Wade Boggs, who was playing in about along the baseline for the double play.
And there is Mack over to third base in the play. Seems like there might be an error for allowing Mack to go to third.
Well, the throw to the plate is what they're saying he went on. And the ball did get away from Pena, but because Kirby did not move up, they're not charging an error.
I thought Mack stopped and only went to third when the ball got away from the catcher.
Yes, that's true.
And now they have scored an error on Hatcher. All right. Here's Chili Davis. Puckett back to the bag at first. Now it is 5-2 Minnesota. Kirby Puckett has driven in 3 of the runs for the Twins, which gives Kirby 71 RBIs for the year. Now the Red Sox bullpen gets busy again. Kirby Puckett. There's Greg Harris, the right-hander, warming up. Back at third, Puckett at first. The infield double play depth with Mo Vaughn on the bag at first with Kirby. Chili Davis 1 for 3 in the game. When last we saw Chili, you had mentioned that he had 4 hits in a game earlier this week.
Right, he's 5 for 10 in this series. All left-handed, actually 6 for 13 now, including this game. All left-handed. And they let him hit in a crucial situation the other night. He was 3 for 3 left-handed. They brought in a right-hander to pitch to him, took the left-hander out.
Too low.
And my point is, a switch hitter, when he's swinging the bat well from one side, you try to avoid that side. I remember playing with Pete Rose. There were times where he'd be swinging the bat great from the left side and not so good from the right side. So you try to get him on the opposite side that he's swinging well from. And Chili Davis is definitely swinging the bat very well from the left side right now.
Yep. In the dirt. 2-0. And I think you pointed it out, Joe, that Irvin has had some control problems, and he is exhibiting them right here. And when he walked Mack, the first man he faced, now he's 2-0 to Davis.
And when you fall behind these hitters like this, you're going to pay the price, because Davis will be sitting there looking for nothing but a fastball, and also in a certain zone.
Now, how did you say it when you were a player? He's looking
dead red.
I love it when you say that. 2-0 the count to Chili Davis. Chili looking dead red. 2-0 the count. 2 on. The crowd is very quiet. 3-0.
I learned another one from Gary Matthews. He used to say, Joe, I'm going to go up and look for a little slide piece. A little slider.
That's what Eckersley throws.
Yeah, a little slide piece.
Eckersley's got the hard cheese. He's got the slide piece.
And a lot of saves.
3-0 to Chili Davis. Pedro Munoz, a right-handed hitter, is on deck. Twins threatening to break it wide open here in the 7th. And now the bases are loaded again. Irvin has come on to face 3 hitters. He's walked 2 of them. And Puckett got that base hit against him for 2 runs. Here comes Hobson, and he has already signaled to the bullpen for Greg Harris. So the bespectacled right-hander will be coming on. And Irvin, very ineffective. 5-2 Minnesota, bases loaded, 1 out. We'll be back. There's a called strike from Greg Harris to Pedro Munoz. Harris on with the bases loaded and 1 out. And he curved Munoz, did Harris, and that's a great pitch for him. A veteran, 36-year-old right-hander. And he's had an excellent year out of the bullpen for the Red Sox.
And he has a very good curveball. There's another one.
3 men on here. Shane Mack at third base. Kirby Puckett is at second base. And Chili Davis is at first base. And the Twins with 2 runs already in here in the 7th and a 5-2 lead. Munoz is 1 for 3 in the game. The infield backed up looking for the double play. There's that curve reach for. Let's see if they can turn two. No, they won't get anybody. Rivera never picked the ball up. Coming in to score is Mack. It is 6-2. Puckett to third, Davis to second, and Munoz aboard on the error. Second error of the inning for the Red Sox.
The one thing I found different now is that infielders play too deep in a double play situation. This ball is hit towards shortstop. He's so deep that Rivera has to really charge it to try to get the double play started, and in doing so he makes it a very tough play for him to make, and he was not able to make it.
Now Brian Harper, the hitter. Luis Rivera, his name's been up in trade rumors a lot lately. Fouled away by Brian Harper. Off to the right and onto the rooftop. Harper has doubled and scored. He's flied out into a double play, and he's grounded to short, 1 for 3. 6-2 Minnesota. Red Sox got the first man, Leas, out in this inning. 6 consecutive Twins have reached base since then.
And that's what we're saying. Even though the Red Sox have helped, the Twins are capable of getting 5, 6, 7 hits in a row.
And there's another base hit. Coming in to score is Kirby Puckett. Chili Davis will stop at third as Hatcher in very shallow left comes up with it. Second hit for Brian Harper. Now it is 7-2. And this is one of those Twins big innings which they are so famous for at the Metrodome.
Greg Harris, it's a sidearm breaking ball, and Harper was fooled by it. He's fooled. You see, he's gone a little bit, but he reaches out with his hands and pulls it in the hole.
Now they've got the left-hander Tony Fossis up in the bullpen, and here comes Hobson again. And the fans, I think, they're blaming it on Butch.
Well, they don't know who to blame right now because the pitching staff has done very well so far this season, and they're struggling tonight. And, well, I don't know if they're blaming Hobson or Greg Harris. You never know.
7-2 Boston. Harris had a great year. And now Tony Fossis comes in for the Red Sox. He is the 4th Red Sox pitcher to work in this inning. 33 games. 19 times he has been called on just to face one hitter, and 18 of those times he has retired that one hitter.
Well, I think he's in only for one hitter here unless he can get the double play.
Kent Hrbek with the bases loaded, and then the right-handed hitting Leas behind him. There is Chili Davis at third base. Over at second base is Pedro Munoz. Brian Harper is at first. Only one out. Strike one to Hrbek. Well, Greg Harris, we didn't have much time to touch on it, but what a fine year he's had. Is 66 in the third innings, and there he is. Before tonight, only 38 hits allowed. I mean, oh, that's astounding.
Right. Well, especially when you compare it to some of the other pitchers around the league.
Taken by Hrbek, a ball and a strike. I mean, 66 in the third innings, 38 hits. Compares with anybody.
Right.
Kent Hrbek has struck out. He's doubled and flied to center. Bases loaded. 4 runs in. And it's 1 ball and 2 strikes now. So Fossis, 33 appearances this year for a grand total of 15 2/3 innings. So he gets in all the time, but then again, it seems like he hardly ever gets in. He doesn't get in for long. Hrbek swung at one that was 2 feet outside. Strike 3.
Hrbek seems to be off balance with the left-handers he's faced tonight. The fastball in, the pitch before. Now this is a breaking ball way outside, and he just starts to swing. It really never starts in the strike zone. He reaches way across the plate to try to make contact.
And now Fossis will face the right-handed hitting Scott Leas. 2 down, and the base is still loaded. Jeff Reardon is up in the Boston bullpen now. A little bit low. Emilio Antonio Fossis. He's 34 years of age. He was born in Havana, Cuba. As Reardon out in the bullpen. But he went to high school here in the Boston area, in Brookline. on the outside of beauty. 1 ball, 1 strike. Went to St. Mary's High School in Brookline. Then went to the University of South Florida in Tampa. And got his bachelor's degree in education there in 1979. He's paid a few dues to get to the big leagues. That's low. 2-1.
And he got a lot of help from George Steinbrenner to finish his career, his college education.
2-1 the count. 3 men on, 2 men down. 1 hopper to Boggs. Well, he thought about tagging that runner coming by, but instead throws to first for the out. The inning is over. Leah starts and ends the inning. In between, they get 4. 7-2, Minnesota. Minnesota 7, the Red Sox 2 as we go to the last of the 7th inning. And Joe Morgan, you mentioned at the outset that the Twins played great defense.
Well, all the infielders play great defense. Great play here by Scott Leah to save a run.
He's back in the 2nd inning on a ball hit by Pena.
And this is Greg Gagne to end the inning on a force out on a ball hit by Brunansky. And we see another play by Gagne here, going into the outfield, making a nice play. And he also made 3 great plays in yesterday's ball game. So that's 5 in 2 days for Gagne.
Aren't many better than Greg Gagne. Here's Jody Reed, who's made a great play himself tonight out there. And he is also singled and grounded out. Ball 1.
If you do a scouting report on the Minnesota Twins now, you can be very accurate. And that is that they play good defense, make all the plays, play sound fundamental baseball, get good pitching, and most of the hitters are real smart at the plate. And that scouting report holds up pretty much day in and day out. The only problems they have sometimes is against pitchers that they're lesser pitchers or pitchers with higher earned run averages. They do not fare as well.
A little bit low, and the count is 2-1 to Reed.
And there you see they're first in batting average, earned run average are second, and fielding percentage. I'm not so high on fielding percentage to grade defense, but that's, one of the statistics that are used. See, first of all, you have to decide whether an infielder gets to enough balls or not. His range has to come into play, and the range on the Minnesota infield is very good. A guy can make 1 error for a whole season, but if he doesn't have a lot of range, his fielding percentage will be high, but it doesn't make him a good defensive player.
2-2 the count to Jody Reed. Herm Winningham is on deck. Well, and also that batting average for the Twins. But they have backed up that team batting average. They lead the majors in scoring, not just getting hits. Base hit for Jody Reed, and he's 2 for 3.
Jody Reed is a high fastball hitter, and anytime you get the ball up, he usually hits it hard. Tapani was trying to get the pitch down, but you see it's up in the strike zone, and when the ball is up, all you have to do is lay the bat on it and you'll hit a line drive.
Twins have a left-hander up in the bullpen. That is Mark Guthrie, and they're going to go to him right here. So that's it for Tapani. 1 out, 1 on in the 7th, and he departs leading 7-2. Tomorrow morning, 11 a.m., the dramatic 18-hole playoff in the U.S. Women's Open Golf Tournament. Julie Inkster versus Patty Sheehan. You'll be able to see it on ESPN and only ESPN tomorrow morning. Now, Mark Guthrie out of the Minnesota bullpen, one of 3 left-handers Tom Kelly has in a very well-balanced bullpen. If anything, this bullpen is much better this year, Joe, than it was last year when they never really had an effective left-hander the whole season.
Well, Guthrie has a good fastball and a good slider, so he has real good stuff, and you can see he throws strikes. That's the important thing when you're coming out of the bullpen. You have to throw strikes.
Kevin Tapani with a rather early exit. He was only around 90 pitches when they got him out of here. You see there, 92 pitches, 6 innings plus, 2 runs, 6 hits, no walks. Kelly must have enormous faith in his bullpen, although he's got a 5-run lead. Can give you a little faith in a bullpen. I did a ball game yesterday in Baltimore, Joe. Texas had an 8-0 lead, and the final was 10-8, although they won it. Swinging strike by Herm Winningham, left-handed hitter. Herm has struck out, and he was victimized in that great play we showed you. A diving catch of the pop-up by Greg Gagne back in the 4th inning.
And his first pitch is a good slider from Guthrie.
Knobloch gets the out at second. Gagne back to first. Winningham a little too fast. Although the way the ball was hit with that big hop, I didn't think there was any chance for a double play. They made it close.
Well, Knobloch makes sure of one. The ball passes in front. That's why he knows he has a chance to go to second base, and he does so. Really not that close at first base. Winningham kind of eased up a little bit.
Now here is Tony Pena. Pena hit that ground ball. We just saw the tape of Scott Leyes playing beautifully back in the 2nd inning. And Pena has flied to center. 0 for 2. 7-2. The Twins lead the Red Sox last of the 7th from Fenway Park. Strike. It's 0-1. This Minnesota ball club at one point had a record of 12-16 this year. And it looked bad. I mean, they were playing poorly. Since then, 47-22 is their record. And they're ahead tonight.
What happens, John, is when you win a world championship the next year and you have a good team, you think that everything is just going to fall in place and you're going to pick up where you left off. And it doesn't happen that way. I think the biggest thing you have to learn to repeat is you have to work harder the second time around than you did the first time. And I think it probably took Minnesota a little time to make that adjustment.
In the right field, Munoz has it. And Pena is 0 for 3. 2 down. And that will bring up Luis Rivera. 7-2, the Minnesota leading. Minnesota with 7 runs and 14 hits. The Red Sox 2 runs, 6 hits, and 2 errors, both of which the Sox made in the Minnesota 4-run 7th inning. Rivera got benched recently for not hustling. And it seems like a rather ill-kept secret here that they're trying to trade him. 0-1 the count. And as you mentioned earlier, Joe, Red Sox have a lot of guys that they'd like to trade, clear some roster space, clear up some roster space in a financial sense. Guys like Jack Clark, almost any of the veteran players who have not done well this year. And again, so far, I guess there hasn't been a whole lot of interest among teams to give the Red Sox much for any of those guys.
Well, I think it's very difficult, as Lou Gorman said the other night, to make trades now because of contract situations of most players. What happens is there are a lot of 10-5 players out there, a lot of players with multi-year contracts, etc., and a lot of players with no trade. So it's not easy to make trades as it was, you know, say 8 to 10 years ago.
And it is 0-2. 2 strikes to count. Oakland defeated Toronto today 9-1. And the Athletics playing without Ricky Henderson, without Jose Canseco, and still without Dave Henderson. Their outfield today was Randy Reddy, Willie Wilson, and Eric Fox. And they beat the Blue Jays and Jack Morris 9-1. Just off the outside corner. 1 ball and 2 strikes. They take 3 out of 4 from the Blue Jays. Today they beat Jack Morris with Kelly Downs on the mound. 9-1 they win that ball game with a 7-run 7th inning.
Well, they beat the Blue Jays 3 out of 4 in Toronto last weekend, I believe. So they've beaten them 6 out of the last 8 ball games.
Check swing. Strike 3. Went around with it. That's the ruling from Merriweather. Rivera goes down. So do the Red Sox. We'll see Gagne, Knobloch, and Mack when we come back after 7-2 Minnesota. Coming up next on SportsCenter, our Sunday conversation with the Wizard. shortstop Ozzie Smith.
There's no loyalty anymore, I don't think, because there's so much movement within the game itself, and free agency has had a lot to do with that. But I've worked hard. I've given all that I can give, and I will continue to give until, you know, that day comes where I'm no longer a Cardinal.
Ozzie Smith, you'll be able to see that entire conversation after the game on SportsCenter. Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann will be with you. In that wild ball game, the Braves and the Pirates today. Nolan Ryan faced the Orioles. And all of the news of the day in sports. Here is Jeff Reardon, former Twin. Look at that, Joe. Only 30 innings pitched the whole year for Reardon. I guess there have not been many save opportunities with the slumping Red Sox.
Well, especially not lately, but Reardon obviously broke the record for saves by Raleigh Fingers held. Raleigh Fingers, of course, going into the Hall of Fame. Now Jeff Reardon has more saves than any pitcher in the history of the game, at least since they've been recording saves.
First ball swinging, Gagne to Jody Reed. Gagne is 1 for 4. It was Gagne's one-out single back in the 7th inning that started the Twins' 4-run rally. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters. Next Sunday, we'll see the Athletics. I'm just going to go now, when I talk about the A's, Joe, I'm just going to say the Oakland A's with Mark McGuire and Mike Bordick. Hey, is Bordick something? Today he hit a triple off the top of the wall. He won a ball game Friday night with a double off the top of the wall in the bottom of the 9th inning against Tom Anke. That's what stars do. Here's Knobloch, who is 2 for 4. And Oakland is staying right in the race. One hop to Boggs. Now, number 2. Of course, next Sunday we'll be in Kansas City, the Athletics and the Royals. I say we in the sense that we at Sunday Night Baseball, but you will be at Cooperstown. You don't go out and ask anybody for their autographs or anything, do you?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Ted Williams.
Yeah?
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays. Give my best to Willie Mays. I saw him at a banquet, sat with him in San Jose, California during the winter. It was one of the greatest nights I ever had at a banquet. Shane Mack takes a called strike. Shane is 2 for 3, a single and a double, a walk. He's scored twice and driven home 1. Kirby Puckett on deck. He would be next. Jeff Reardon, eligible to be a free agent at the end of this season. And he's a little upset that the Red Sox haven't re-signed him already.
If you're the Red Sox, you don't want to re-sign anyone right now until you decide which direction you're going to take this team in. I mean, you may not have a need for a very expensive closer anymore. And, I mean, they have decisions to make with Wade Boggs as well at third base. So I can understand why they are waiting until they decide which direction they're going in. You have to realize Butch Hobson is, in my opinion, is in a very difficult situation. He's trying to win with some of the veteran players, but he's trying to win without speed, without power. How do you do that? But he wants to keep his head above water.
Look out. 2-2.
He doesn't want to throw in the towel and just play all the young players or start bringing them up, because then it looks like they've given up. So it's a very difficult time now for Hobson and the Red Sox. They've got a lot of veterans that are not really helping them, so they have to decide what they're going to do for next year. That's Rich Gale, the pitching coach, beside Hobson.
Mack backs away. Well, the Rocket is still under contract. There he is, Roger Clemens on the right, and
Danny Darwin is sitting there, but Darwin, you know, is a guy that they're not sure about what they're going to do with.
I think they'd like to trade him.
Right.
He's got, what, a couple of more years left in a very big contract.
Although he pitched very well yesterday. He had a perfect game for 6 innings yesterday and ended up getting the loss. But they have a lot of players like that. They have Jack Clark to make a decision on. They have Bernansky. I mean, they've got a lot of players that are making a lot of money, and they have to decide what they're going to do with those players. Of course, a lot of them may be exposed to the expansion draft.
Pop-up. All on, plenty of room. Backpedaling a bit, the wind carrying it. And the Twins go down in order against Jeff Reed. Top of the Red Sox order coming: Wade Boggs, Billy Hatcher, and Phil Plantier. 7-2 Twins. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Monday Night Baseball. The Oakland Athletics, second place in the West, and the world champion Minnesota Twins, Mark McGwire, Kirby Puckett, and then you'll see the series finale Wednesday night at 8:30. Ricky Henderson of the A's, the Twins, and Kirby Puckett, Shane Mack, Kent Herbeck, and company. And there you see it. With the win tonight, the Twins will remain 3 games up on Oakland as that series begins tomorrow. 7-2, the Twins taking care of business here tonight against the Boston Red Sox. Smiley and Welch tomorrow night on Monday Night Baseball. Kruger and Dave Stewart Wednesday night. Here's Wade Boggs. He's lined to short, lined to center, and grounded to second. Facing the left-hander, Guthrie. First ball swinging. We have seen Boggs for fewer pitches in the plate than any game I can remember. Been going up there, swinging away early in the count, not working the count much. This is the year of Wade Boggs' discontent.
Maybe he's forgotten how to hit leadoff. Remember, he's been hitting third most of the season. Just moved back up tonight.
Not hitting that well wherever he's hit. 272 at game time. And that's, what, 75 points or so below his lifetime average. And there is strike one to Billy Hatcher. 1 for 3 with a run scored.
I saw an interview he did with the Boomer, Berman, at the All-Star game, and he basically said that it was bothering him that he doesn't have a contract. That every time he goes to the plate, he's trying to prove to the owners and to the fans that he deserves another contract.
You buy that?
No, but he said it, so I mean, he must be buying it.
Well, it's possible that some players could react that way, right?
That's what I say. He must feel that way if he said it. I think it's, you know, something that shouldn't happen, but if it has, you know, then something that he has to deal with personally.
Right to Leas. Number 2. And that will bring up, let's see, a pinch hitter. John Marzano will bat for Phil Plantier.
I think they brought him just for this. He just got here.
Just activated today. They sent Tim Naring to the disabled list. I mean, they didn't send him. They sent his name in on the wire to the disabled list. And Marzano, a catcher, former U.S. Olympic team member, activated. Left field scoreboard here in Boston, hand operated, and if you were the man who operated the scoreboard in left field, that's the view of the game that you would have.
Well, it's ground level.
Yeah. Carlton Fisk at the plate. 6-6 tie. Game 6 of this. Let's see.
Yeah.
Ball 1 to Marzano. There he is out there. That's the same cameraman who was there in the 75 series, and he's never found a doorway to get out. He's been there ever since. 2-0. You had a pretty good view of Fisk's home run. 75.
I had a better view than I would have liked, yes.
Yeah. Did you think it was gone all the way?
Yes.
No chance it was going foul?
I was pushing it, but...
Yeah. Carlton was pushing a little bit, too, the other way.
Yeah, I think that's what he out-pushed me.
3-0 the count to the pinch hitter, John Marzano. 8th inning, 7-2. Twins ahead. Fisk has had his best week of the year, you know, injury-plagued year, and then he's not playing much, even though he's back. He helped them win a ball game over Baltimore last Tuesday with a bases-loaded double, 3-run double. Then he hit a triple a couple of days later in Milwaukee. Those were his first 2 extra base hits of the whole season.
I saw that triple he hit in Milwaukee. In fact, I was on my way to the refrigerator, and when I got back, he was going into third base. Yeah, I don't know how they misplayed it out there, but something had to go wrong.
A low blow. See, you took that home run in 75 personally.
Yes, I did.
Gagne throws out Marzano. We're heading to the 9th inning. Here in the ballpark where Carlton Fisk hit that home run against Joe's Reds. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, the game of the week. John Miller, Joe Morgan with you. Fenway Park, Boston. And we're getting a look at the world champion Minnesota Twins And we're looking at just how they've been going about their business in 1992. If anything, they seem like a better ball club than the one that won the World's Championship a year ago. But as Chuck Knobloch said earlier this year, the Twins also have a little chip on their shoulder about this whole thing. He said, hey, we won the World Series last year, and people keep talking about the Atlanta Braves as if they won it. Here is Kirby Puckett. It was one of the reasons they won that World Series last year. As a strikeout. We all remember Jack Morris and the incredible performance, the greatest in the clutch in World Series history in Game 7. But how about Game 6? Kirby Puckett, the one-man show he put on. And the Twins had to win to stay alive. Reardon with strike 2 to Kirby. Kirby against Steve Avery. Had a 2-run triple early in the game, made a great catch, and then finally won that game in extra innings against Liebrandt with a home run. It was as though single-handedly he took on the Braves. Got a piece of it. Here are two guys who, 1987, helped bring the World's Championship to Minnesota. Jeff Reardon. Tom Kelly said, hey, Reardon picked us up on his back and carried us right to the World Series.
Oh, one thing is happening here. Puckett's not seeing the ball well off Reardon. He's having some ugly swings.
Drive to right field, Brunansky. Plenty of room out there. Look at that, 380 feet to straightaway right field. Puckett retired. He's 3 for 5, though, tonight. With 3 RBIs, a double in the third that drove in a run, and then a 2-run bases-loaded 7th-inning single that kind of broke this game open. It was 3-2 in the 7th, and then Puckett got the big 2-run single to make it 5-2. Ball 1. Jeff Reardon. And he was with the Twins. He just handed them the ball when they had the lead, and he went out and did the rest. And was almost tireless. Chili hits a high drive deep into right center field. Brunansky way back there, and this one is into the bleachers. Chili Davis, 7th home run of the year, and it was a shot into the Fenway bleachers beyond the Boston bullpen. 8-2 Minnesota. And that is the first home run of the game for the Twins.
Well, Chili Davis was talking to me last night about the fact that he hasn't hit with much power. He said, I'm getting the job done, batting average-wise, but not driving the ball. This is a pitch that he can drive out the middle of the plate, belt high, and he really drives it into right center field. And that one is into the section.
Now, we've got Gene Larkin, a pinch hitter for Munoz, and he, on the first ball, flies out. Larkin, who drove in the winning run in Game 7. That great game in the 10th inning. He got the pinch hit single to end the World Series. Gene Larkin out of Columbia University. So we don't see him very long. Now Kent Herbeck is, let's see who's up now. Where are we? Brian Harper's the hitter. Herbeck on deck. And Harper hits one foul. Herbeck is on deck. Harper is 2 for 4 with a run back.